Hey everybody, it's that time again. We're gonna do another watch review. My second one in a row from Liv Watches. If you haven't watched my other video, go watch it. Really cool micro brand. Took a gamble on the first one because I didn't know much about them, but I saw that they'd have had several very successful Kickstarters where they'd set like a $30,000 goal, talk about the specs, the Swiss features and, the manufacturing, all the things that were going to put into this watch if you signed up. And, they rocked it with like 150 or 180,000. Then the next one came around. They set another goal or target of $30,000 or $40,000 and it hit $1 million. And then there was another one for like $40,000 target and it hit 800,000. I think there was one that they set a $30,000 target and took in 1.7 million. I mean, this is a really successful, and I think now they've gotten to the point where they got the operating capital to basically design their watches, test them, do all that work with the manufacturer in Switzerland to get it just right. And then they run off a bunch. They tend to be limited runs of like 1,000 or 1,500 or something like that. And they do these runs and they sell out. And I started off with this guy. This is the Rebel-DDC and did it in the Panda. I've got two bands for it. Right now I'm wearing this one because it's just better in, if you're wearing it in the shower or whatever, than the canvas one with the leather that gets wet and stays wet for a while. But that one actually looks a little better. But just amazing watch. I buying watches lately, not necessarily just based on price or the brand, but because of the dial. I want it just to talk to me. It could be something that's simple and elegant and kind of understated, but in its clean lines and look, something like a simple Victorinox. This is only a $480 watch. But it's timeless, it's classic. It goes along with this that's always in my pocket. It's beautiful. I've got a couple from Tissot that really struck my eye. The Tissot Chrono XL, that beautiful deep blue, just a really nice big, but not too thick chronograph. The Tissot T-Race, which is a MotoGP motorcycle racing inspired. Notice the brake caliper bezel. I'm sorry, the brake caliper crown guard and the brake rotor, again in a chronograph with just interesting bands and stuff. My Belova, beautiful dial. I see that a mile away and I'm like, you know what? That's a really cool looking dive style sport watch. Again, chronograph, larger size, 45 millimeter. And then my Longines. Clean, understated in a way, kind of like the Victorinox, but just super clean, amazing blue dial, and just a fantastic looking entry-level, luxury watch. And then I saw this thing, and I was just like, holy crap, that's a cool looking watch. That is a watch I'd be proud to have on my wrist, as long as it, it's worth the money that I paid, which is $450, and is it legit? So I took a risk and went and bought it and had amazing interaction with the company. Their marketing's excellent. Their interaction. I'm getting emails and I'm talking to the owners and founders, to Chaz and his wife and stuff, and they're following up with me like, how'd you like the watch? And hey, we watched your video here and passed it around. I'm not getting that from Belova or Tissot or Victorinox or anybody. Like, that's kind of cool. And who knows, maybe one day these guys are going to be a giant company and, they've grown and become part of a bigger company and, you won't have that kind of access to the CEO anymore. But hey, for right now, it's a cool ride, right? I'm sitting here chatting back and forth with the people who actually designed the watch. And you don't get to do that unless you're typically with a micro brand, or, you're someone way high up in the watch world where you can actually sit down and talk to the people at, Rolex or whomever. So I ordered a second one because I was so impressed with the first one. I was like, okay, now I want to try another one. So just like the other one, comes in a really cool packaging. Although their, what watch is it? The new Gravel, which is like their take on a G-Shock, which is really kind of cool. Comes with like a cool carry bag. You could use it as a go bag or an emergency kit or something like that. It'd be nice if they started using that with other watches, because this is, it's kind of cool, but I don't know what the hell I'm going to use it for. So, but hey, you got it. It's there if you need it. Comes in really nice packaging. Before I look at the watch and you get my reaction to it, this one also comes with a nice little packet. Comes with a picture of Chaz and all the information. Hey, message from us, what we're about. If you want to pause that and read it. go for it. It tells you here's the watch settings. It's just like flashcards, you know, and they're nice. They're I think they're almost like waterproof. They feel like they got a plasticky, waxy kind of coating. You've got another one here thanking you for buying the watch, tell you who it was packed by and all that kind of stuff. You've got your cleaning instructions. And then you've got the thing here telling you, hey, if it's a screw or push down, make sure that you actually screw in the crown if it's a screw down crown, or make sure it's always pushed in before jumping in the water or, you know, jumping in the shower, things like that. Just basic stuff, but it's nice. Instead of like this manual like you see with Seiko, it's all folded up. It's like this thick. When you fold it out, it's like an old school Rand McNally freaking roadmap. I know I just dated myself with that fucking reference, but you know, instead of having a giant thing and you got to search, go, wait, that's Korean, that, I don't even know what the hell that one is. Maybe it's Cyrillic. You got to go find the instructions in English. It's really nice to have just cue cards, boom, boom, oh, or just scan the QR code and pull it up on your phone. Nice little touch. It's packaged very well. It's presentation. They do a really good job. None of the other watches that I've ever bought have had that sort of attention to detail. And I mentioned in the other video, yeah, it may not matter at the end of the day. It's always about the watch, right? It's about the quality. How well does it keep time? How does it look on your wrist? All that kind of stuff. But there's something to the experience, the buying experience, the follow-up after the fact, the whole presentation. It's all just part of it, you know, making it feel a little bit special. So you get a nice little microfiber, and you get a freaking gorgeous looking watch. So let's show you which one we got. We got the Venom Yellow GX1. So this is the watch that started it all. Now, I do believe the latest iteration might have a small tweak or two compared to the original one that was offered 10 years, I guess almost 10 years ago now. But this is a really nice looking watch. We'll get this, all the little packaging stuff off so we can really kind of zoom in and take a look at it. I went with the yellow strap. I just thought that looked really cool. Let me get the protective film off the back here for you. And let's take off the tag. All right. This is nice. So this one is their original chronograph. It's also quartz. Now, they do have automatic versions of a lot of their watches, and a lot of the newer stuff like the P51 Pilot watch, those are automatics. You pay a lot more money for them. This is a $550 watch. If you step up to the automatic versions of these, I want to say they might be closer to like $1,100 or $1,200. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a bunch of different models here. I'm still learning about the brand and all that kind of stuff. But what you get is, let me pull up the damn specs. Come on. So it's 45 millimeter. This is going to be a big boy for some people. I've heard it wears well on the wrist. Yeah, that's going to work perfectly on my wrist. That's fine. The case height is 13.4 millimeter this way. The lug width is, these are 23s, so that will limit. You know, I made a typo, verbal typo last time. I said I thought these were 21s. No, the 21 I was thinking of was the Victorinox, and I needed to get an extra strap because the metal one with the butterfly clasp, I could not get it adjusted. It was either too tight or too loose. There's no way to get it dialed in. So with the Barton strap, and I was able to find one that complements it perfectly. That was the 21. This was a 22. This is a 23. There are 23 mil straps out there, but you know, there's not going to be as many. But to be honest, they did such a good job, I think, of this one, the way it's just molded in. I like that it's got a little bit of touch of black. They have other colors, so you can swap these out. They've got red band, black with red, red with black. I think they got a green or a blue or something. They got black, I think, with white. They've got a gray strap. So you have different combinations. So you can get this watch with the yellow-ish lettering if you want, and we're going to talk about the dial here in a second. And then you can add whatever you want as far as all the different colors. And there are 23 mil straps out there. Now, I will say these are not quick disconnect like the Rebel came with. Would have been nice if they were quick disconnect, but not a deal breaker by any means. I'm just going through every little thing. I'm going to nitpick just because I don't want to sound just like a fanboy, and I only point out the positive. If I see something negative, I'm going to mention it. So what you do have is on this one ups the water resistance to 200, and that is a screw down crown. This one, the Rebel-DDC or DDC doesn't have a screw down crown. It's only 100 millimeter. So that's fine, but I'd be careful, like without a screw down crown, if you're diving into the pool, if you're like jet skiing where you hit the water at speed, that impact of the water could create enough pressure that it could push past that. And it technically could here, but it's gonna be a lot less likely to. As with any chronograph, yeah, it says 200 meters. Don't use the buttons underwater. Don't be that guy. You're just asking to get water in the case. It is a nice screw down back. It's got their logo on it. It's 316L stainless steel, made in Switzerland. I don't know what the movement is. I think it's a Ronda. It's a decent Ronda movement. It's got 1/10 of a second, sapphire crystal. And the real thing about these is the look. When you look at the spec sheet, there's a lot of, there's no shortage of Swiss-made or Japanese-made quartz chronographs with 200-meter water resistance with nice materials like this. There's tons of them out there. You could throw a dart at a wall and hit one, and you could go with that and it'd be a fine watch. Why I've been choosing these guys is because they're a bit different on their design. When you look at that dial, there's almost like this carbon fibery, there's some kind of texture to the damn thing. To the back, it's a kind of a weird, it's very subtle. Let me get all the fingerprints off while I'm zooming in here at 4K. Maybe not carbon fibery, but there's just this depth. The black inner dial, it's layered. They call it like stadium, like, you're looking at the field and then it kind of goes up the rows up the stadium. It's like that. It has this deep kind of 3D effect. I'll say it's not as deep as the effect on this one. This one, you can see when I turn it at an angle, the outer part of the dial is actually at like a 45-degree angle. Like there's some serious depth. Now, as a result, this watch is fairly thick on the wrist, and some people may not like that. I'm fine with it. But you've got yellow letters on this one. You've got your 1/10 of a second complication here. You have your seconds that pertains to the time, and then you've got your 30-minute counter here, and your second counter is up there for your stopwatch. Nice positive, there was like a mouse click. Nice tactile click, see if you can hear it. Yeah, that's a nice tactile click. It's not too soft where you feel like you're gonna bump it and start the stopwatch accidentally. But it's got a really nice precise click. I love that 1/10 of a second spinning around down there. Sorry, when it's not on your wrist and I push the button, I'm like, my finger slipped off and let's try that again. Really freaking cool. The numbers are all lining up right. The reset, really, really nice. The bezel doesn't turn, it's knurled. What I like about this is that, if you were to scratch and bang this up a bit, I have a feeling you could probably send it into them, and maybe for a fee, they would go ahead and they could just replace that, because that's the top layer and it looks like it just bolts down. So if you needed to replace that for some reason, or maybe in the future, whoops, they'll offer different colors. I don't know. But I think this is absolutely gorgeous. Size-wise, it's going to be right up there, just a little bit bigger than my Bulova Marine Star. This, I think, is a 44, and that's a 45, plus it's got some big-ass buttons sticking off the side. But I like that. It looks like an actual stopwatch. If you were to sit here and hold this in your hand like this, I could take it off. Your fingers just line up with the buttons. They're big, they're tactile, you can feel them, you can feel the clicks. And I feel like I could use this like a stopwatch instead of going and pushing a little button on the side of the watch. You could use this as an actual stopwatch. So let's go ahead and put it on, tech for comfort. Now, apparently this is made for some bigger wrists because I can put that on the tightest. This is a big boy. That is sitting on the tightest loop. I can't go any tighter. It's almost too tight, so I'm probably going to back it off to the second last. But if I've got a 7 1/3 inch wrist, 7.3 inches is what I measured it last time. And I'm on the last button, the last hole, right? So if you've got like 6 3/4 inch wrists, this is probably not going to work for you. Not because you couldn't carry the size, maybe you're tall but really skinny and you can get away with the size, but the band itself is, while immensely comfortable, it's definitely not going to be for someone with little wrists. You're just not going to have the adjustment unless you kind of want to cut a hole in the thing. And because it does start to taper there, it might bind a little bit. It's not going to work. So I don't know if they make smaller bands for this, but that is probably the only negative. Not for me, because luckily it does fit my wrist. But if you got a smaller wrist, this is not going to be the watch for you. And maybe the thinking was it's okay because being a 45 big chunky watch, someone with little wrists is probably not going to want to wear a watch that big anyway. But it does work for me. It's extremely comfortable. The way the lugs and everything's molded, the way this thing is just molded to follow the lines of the lugs. There's no hot spots. It's soft. It just wraps right around your wrist. So we were to put that on where I had it. I mean, look at that beautiful. There's no hard angles. There's nothing exposed. It's just a beautiful tapered angle. That ergonomically, someone put some thought into that. That is really, really very, very nice. So is the time right? It's off by a minute, but the date's, yeah, it's actually off by a day. So I'm going to go in and set the time and date. But that is an absolutely gorgeous watch. I love the orange. I love the orange on the side, on your crown. It's a very big crown, and it's got some nice knurling to it. So screwing and unscrewing, very smooth. As soon as it pops, there we go. So now I can pull it out one click. Oh, nice precise clicks. So let's just leave that on the 22nd and let's fast forward it to make sure that we get our AM PM right. So let me roll past midnight until it goes. Really smooth movement, man. Setting this thing, it's like it's on glass. All right, so there's midnight. We'll go to 11:30, maybe 11:37 by the time I get to it. 11:36. So we've got 11:36 and yeah, no, it'll be 11:37. Very, very nice. That is an absolutely gorgeous watch. So it's all about the dial for me. Yeah, it's about the size and the case. I like the knurling here, although you're going to want to be careful. Working on the car, doing something on the bike where you got a painted surface or something, you don't want to take that knurled, rough stainless steel surface and go down your paint. So there is a downside to that. But it's tough. It'll take a beating. It is built a little bit like a tank, but it's not, I mean, it's not a lightweight. But they say it weighs 120 grams. Weight is 120 grams. So I've seen heavier watches. If you had a bigger watch, had a all bracelet or something like that, all steel. But it is a little bit of a chunky boy, but for its size, it wears surprisingly well. I think the only problem you're going to have is if you're a dude with a skinnier wrist, if you're 7 or less, probably not going to fit you. You're going to put it on the tightest setting and it's going to flop around a bit. Me, second to last setting seems just about right for me. There's just a little bit of wiggle room. It moves a little bit. As soon as it heats up and you get a little bit of sweat behind it, it's a little wet. It'll kind of stick a little bit. It'll provide a little more friction. But it's a beautiful band. You know what would be really cool? I'm going to see if I've got some in my toolbox. With this yellow band, it would be really cool if these were black, to set off the black here and here. I'm going to look around and see if I've got any that'll fit that. It being that it's 23 mil, probably not. I may have to source them go buy a 23 mil band and just take those off. I think that would be a nice touch. If I had a critique, it'd be cool to maybe make those black to add a little more of a two-tone. So when you're looking at it this side, you got the two-tone effect. When you look at it on this side, it'd be nice to maybe see that carried over, make it a little bit more uniform. But that is an absolutely gorgeous watch. I'll be wearing that one to the office tomorrow. Do I like it better than this? I don't know. That's a tough one because this thing is just a different shape than anything I have. And I like the white, black, and the orange. I like the panda design. Whereas this is more traditional in that it's a round diver chronograph style watch. And this is just a little bit off the beaten path. Color-wise, I think I prefer the yellow. But that's a tough call. I got these two because they're kind of very different from each other, even though they share similar design language as far as how they construct the dial and all that kind of stuff. But very interesting brand, very good product, just very high level of fit and finish. I mean, this one I'll tell you what. Here's the level of fit and finish and attention to detail. I mentioned how this bezel is screwed on. Now those have almost like, it looks like let's see if we can get it to focus better. Notice that there's a little flat slit, like you could, I mean, it almost looks like it would be a hex, but maybe more of a flat screwdriver. Notice the lines here are going perfectly this way towards the center, as is that one. And when you look at these ones at these angles, they're tightened to the point where those slits for the screwdriver are always pointing towards the center. This one matches that, this matches this matches that. Someone thought about that when they used those types of screws and thought it would look off if they were all at different angles. So let's make them all match. Little things like that. Little things can go a long way. A lot of nice little touches really round out the package. It makes it feel less cookie cutter. Look, you can't go wrong with a Longines. That's a luxury brand. They start at $900 and run up into the many thousands. You cannot go wrong with a watch like that. But even at a luxury level, this is a mass-produced watch, right? And the Tissot's, you can't go wrong with a Tissot. Victorinox, just like the Swiss Army knives. These are incredibly well-built, well-crafted, well-thought-out designs. But they still feel mass-produced. When you buy something like this, these are more handcrafted in small batches. It's like, do you want Jack Daniels or do you want Brothers Bond or Four Roses Cask Reserve or something like that, where someone took the little bit of extra time? There's certainly watches for the masses, just like there's drinks for the masses, there's cars, there's motorcycles, there's things for the masses, and mass production has its place. It makes good quality things affordable to the masses, right? Nothing wrong with that. But for the same money, you could get something that's a bit off the beaten path. It's something that's a bit more handcrafted. It's something where a small team sat down and said, what are the kind of watches we want to wear? Let's build something here that's a bit different, because if someone just wants a plain old cool watch, they could go to any of 500 other companies. There is no shortage of these kinds of watches. There's nothing wrong with them. These are excellent watches, but they're not special. And that's the difference. That's one of the reasons why I tend to go for Ducati or Aprilia. Is it faster than a Suzuki or Yamaha? No. Is it even as reliable? No. But there's something different about it. There's just something that's, when you're talking in the sense of like a motorcycle, there's something that's just a bit different. They sound different. They feel different. There's something more visceral. There's a conveyance of passion. There's something that transcends just the mechanics and the spec sheet. And that's what I like about this micro brand. There's a feeling of passion of someone who's a legit enthusiast that said, I want to build something that I would be proud to sell to my friends and family and that I would want on my wrist because I'm not seeing it elsewhere in the market. And so they set out to do that, and they've pulled it off. It wasn't just a fluke with the one that I got that was kind of cool. This one's just as cool, just in a different way. So I keep moving my face behind it because I notice my camera focusing on me, and I'm not you don't need to see my ugly mug. This is what we're here to talk about. Liv watches, 2 of them in a row. 2 of them are just freaking fantastic. Knocked them out of the park. These are going to be the highest in my collection as far as what I wear, what I like to show off. These are the ones. Even if the Longines has the name recognition and all that kind of stuff, and cost more. I mean, that thing costs almost as much as these two combined. But this is the cooler watches, both of these. So thanks to Chaz and his wife and James and everybody else there that's been following up with me and touching base with me to see how things are going and all that other stuff. You've put together a really cool experience that transcends just a piece of time, just a thing to tell the... If you want that, go get an Apple Watch. You can go get a Timex. If you want something that makes a little bit of a statement and that's a bit different and could be a conversation starter and something that's just more unique, give these guys a look. Got a great warranty, 90 days. For any reason you don't like it, send it back. You got nothing to lose here. And from everything I've seen, this is not a flash in the pan. Oh, they had one successful Kickstarter and went away. They had amazing Kickstarters, several of them over several years. And 10 years later, they're here and they're crushing it. You're going to see more from this brand. I guarantee it. So anyway, I thought I was going to do a shorter review on this one, and it's almost as long as the last one, but there's a lot of good things to say, and I didn't want to sell them short. So this is the Venom GX1. The GX1 is what started it all with this company. I wanted to go with the OG before looking at some of the others, and there will be others. These are any indication of what this company's doing. Yeah, there's going to be others in my collection. So anyway, give them a look. I'll throw the links and specs and stuff in the description. Check them out. You won't be disappointed.